Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Frontline Advantage. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Randall Levin, who is the past chair of the American College of Emergency Physicians Wellness Section. Dr. Levin and I met in 2020 when he was part of the Wisconsin Medical Society. And one of the things that intrigued me so much about wanting to get him onto our podcast is his care around physician wellness. He had talked to us about burnout, and he had looked at our solution and has been following us now for a few years around how we focus a lot on gathering insights, not only from people on the front line, such as nurses, but those like physicians who experience this burnout, but may be afraid to actually bring up these issues to administrators for fear of retaliation or other issues it may cause. Dr. Levin is someone who experienced burnout himself, and it's something that stuck with me over the years. So today I want to share his story with all of you. Dr. Levin, welcome to the Frontline Advantage.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'd love for you to please start by sharing your background, what got you into physician wellness, what inspired you to actually want to speak with us in 2020 and follow our journey until today.
Excellent question. Being a physician leader at my local facility, I was a member of the executive committee. I was the director of the emergency department. I was the medical director of our medical group. And my goal was to allow our team members, particular physicians, but also the nurses and the ancillary personnel, to be able to function at the top of their credential. The problems that were occurring were very worrisome to me because the stresses that we were experiencing caused blockages to who we were as caregivers, doctors, nurses, again, mid-levels. And we ended up not really truly caring. Now, I may be exaggerating the terminology of truly care. I think all physicians, all nurses, all team members, and even hospitals are truly carers. They truly do care. But are you connected to that? And that's the issues that came about with the burning out process. I left active clinical practice, emergency medicine clinical practice, after 28 years. What was happening to me, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a diagnosis because this was back in 2005, again, after 28 years of active practice. So I started active practice in the 70s. I knew that I was losing that which I excelled at, and that was my humanity, my compassion, my empathy. I was losing the ability to know when I walked into the room that even though it may be a difficult approach to the medical care based on the presenting symptoms, I knew that I would be the right person for that patient at that time. Not wondering, am I spending too many minutes in this room? That's a toxic work environment that you have to see so many patients per hour, especially since the 1980s when the business model started to show its face. In the process, towards the end of my clinical years, again, I'm still licensed, though I don't clinically practice. I work on well-being, wellness, preventing burnout at the national level and at the local level. And at the local level, in the same system that had a role in the burning out process for myself. And seeing the overnight switch here that the importance of well-being has taken. The COVID infection obviously was horrific. The amount of burning out did tick up. That was shown based on the Medscape surveys, but it was there before. And so what the COVID did was actually bring out that which was already broken. And unless you're fixing that which is already broken, you start adding the extra. One of the problems with the burning out process is that you do lose autonomy. You're, as we say, instead of it being a career, you're a replaceable piece, cog of, in a wheel, a replaceable one. And if you're not going to do it, we'll get somebody in who will do it. So the reasons why one goes into medicine in the first place is basically blocked. And now it's all about the success of the entity and the businesses who have taken over.
So that's a great thought there. Let's go with that, Dr. Levin. You've talked a lot, some great points around blockages, compassion, humanity, requirements from administrators to see a certain number of patients per minute or per hour. And what you're talking about now, where people are, the reasons they went into medicine, and after a number of years, like in your own journey, those things they connected to all of a sudden start to change to meet requirements or outputs. So the name of this podcast is Frontline Advantage, Harnessing Employee Insights for Business Success. What message do you want to share with administrators and leaders in these business corporate entities on why this kind of churning and burning of physicians is not a good, sustainable solution for achieving their business outcomes?
The business of medicine is taking away the ability of, as a patient, that I'm going to be able to be cared for by my physician. Doctors want to be able to be part of excellent medical care. Doctors want an input into that type of care. Doctors want a feedback on their input. I used to go to the chiefs of the departments and say, give us feedback. So we want feedback. And the last issue is doctors just want to be acknowledged. Without any of those 5 areas, physicians and medical team members are suffering. So are we getting information? Is administration getting the information, or are they flying above it? The reason that I connected with your company back then, well, first of all, I love the concept because you are actually asking the people who are involved in the everyday activity and care and running of a hospital, the medical, and it could be not just the medical side, it could be the housekeeping and other sides. And an easy way of doing it, the progress of listening and how can you listen is so important in healing the medical care team, healing the physician. There are numbers out there to replace a physician, hundreds of thousands to $1 million, depending upon the type of physician. Nurses in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's all based on nobody wants to spend anything because, how is that going to benefit the bottom line? Well, it benefits the bottom line because you don't have to replace a physician. It benefits the bottom line because the patients are going to give you accolades, and you can put down a report card to the CSM or the government, and they get and they bump up your fee. So to get accurate, but if you're not asking the right people, and a good example of the wrong way, and it's being done now. So they have all these surveys, but they don't ask the people who have the experience, what they went through. I know people when I do speak, they say, well, I was 20 years ago. Medicine's different. Well, what's different is not the disease process. Those are the same. We have more knowledge about them, and we have more medications and approaches to cure them. But I talk about that which allows you to stay connected so that you can keep up with the change.
That's fantastic. There's this quote that says, before people want to know how much you know, they want to know how much you care. And that allows them to feel comfortable with you being able to provide guidance and advice on what they need to do with their body. It opens them up in a way that you talk about connection. And it seems a lot of that ability to form that connection, the humanity of it, is lost on the pressures and goals to achieve certain financial milestones. Perhaps those that focus most on the long term and focus on patient experience as well as employee experience as an input leads to better business outcomes. And so those best-in-class organizations tend to think longer term. We're actually out of time. I know we're running a little long today, but I had one quick thought that I wanted to ask you on, which is we're based here in the Bay Area. There's a lot of talk about AI. Do you think AI is going to be something that actually ends up helping physicians, acting as a co-pilot of sorts or an autopilot the way a pilot might fly an airplane? Do you think it's actually going to take jobs from doctors and create a greater disconnect or a greater connect, even with patients, if AI bots look like humans? What are your just quick thoughts on AI in general?
AI, I think, is an outstanding venue. Now, the only downside that downside, I fear that some jobs will be lost. Will a triage person be lost? Will it get to a point business model wise that the AI, we rather invest in the AI and we don't have the triage nurse? What you're losing, and again, I don't know everything about AI, but what I truly fear, is the humanity, the touching the hands. Now, I did speak to a company that also had at-home diagnosing, and I forget the company, it was during the same time that I think we started to check your company out, but they were actually doing physical exams, but you don't have the humanity, and I can't stress that enough. I think it can be very helpful in the workup and management and efficiency. One of the things that's happened with triage, they turned it into a virtual triage. One doctor in one city has 7 hospitals that he's triaging, or he or she. And the problem with that is, it gets maybe people seen and get triaged, but then the doctor comes in and then you know what? They didn't know this. They didn't see this. Then we're going to make 180 degrees and go different pathway. So if you're using AI purely for this is it, and if they don't check off all these boxes, we don't know what's wrong with you. You have to have the ability. That's what live doctors, nurses, and mid-levels talk about.
This is fantastic, Dr. Levin. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. There's so much good content and just hearing the journey that you've been on, and it's sad in a way that you've experienced this burnout and that you have so much you want to contribute back to medical societies, physicians, and hopefully it's a tale for organizations to realize. I think, one of the things we're trying to do very much is showcase that by getting input in from your own people, to want to build these organizations that ultimately, yes, there's a focus on profit, but that profit doesn't mean to be churning and burning people out, especially when you talk about the cost to find talent. If you can actually keep your people, motivated, keep them for longer, keep them sharper, all of that's going to be something that is beneficial for these organizations, corporate. So I want to thank you.
Yeah, our system right now is like night and day from 20 years ago. There's so much going that I'm also know about and involved with, that helping support the staff peer-to-peer. I mean, there's so many coffee shops. In our coffee shop, we have 5 doctors from across the state in Illinois are going to go on a fishing trip on Lake Winnebago because of that connection. We want to keep connection. How can I think one of your selling points is we are going to be able to have you sell connection and get back to the connection, whether that the connection to myself, to my colleagues, to the patient, to the administration, but bring in the right people who can really talk about in detail. I mean, I've gone through so many different things here on nothing detailed, but
Yeah, and the thing that may be an opportunity for these corporate hospital chains to realize the value of all this is this increase in patient satisfaction. And then that being an input into these HCAP surveys that are sent and Medicare reimbursements determined based on patient satisfaction. And as there's increased competition, that will force people to not just say, okay, we've got to see a certain number of patients, but no, we've got to deliver quality care and actually connect, because we want these people choosing us, not feeling like we're a monopoly and they have nowhere else to go. And so as that competition for care increases, ideally, it also forces a lot of these corporate chains to actually have to listen to their people.
yeah, I think if you're able to do what it sounds like you're trying to do and sell that point, the ultimate is connection. Stay away from satisfaction. Stay away from, happiness. Because I would really be happy if I bought a new car, or if I joined a country club. Oh yeah, that'll make me great, happy. Well, you get the car, you get the country club. Oh, that doesn't make me happy anymore. You're always looking ahead. You're always looking for something that you can never satisfy. Contrast that to what I'm suggesting. You are promoting that contentment, the support feeling, the warmth feeling that you can have even in the dire times, even during the COVID times. If the administration would have taken care of the PPE and made the team members feel that they were worth it, and they didn't care if they die or they get murdered in a parking lot. They had monitors in the parking lot. There was an article in the newspaper. I know the writer, and he wrote about an incident here that I won't go into it, but that a nurse was unfortunately murdered in the parking garage. And the issue wasn't that they didn't have enough monitors. The issue was that they didn't care enough that they had people monitoring the monitors. So after that happened, again, reactive. Oh, now we have all this. We have cars going up and down the aisles. We want to know that we're worth saving, that you care about us. And you know that without us being healthy, you can't be healthy financially. Our chief wellness officer deals with the wellness not only of the staff, which I promote, chief wellness officer. I'm not one, but if I would be back, I would be doing that. But also the system, because we need each other. And right now it's one or the other. And the government plays a role in that too. But as long as we think positive, brainstorm, look ahead, visionary, that's what I do best. So I'll leave it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Levin. Thanks, everyone.